We open with this somber funeral sequence for Lena. All our main characters now reside on Driftmark, forcing this complex dynamic of political scheming and interpersonal character drama to start to mix and slowly simmer. Alicent's eccentric daughter, spilling cryptic wordplay and rambled prophecies. She's interesting, and I imagine during the next time jump when she's aged up that she'll become a very intriguing character. Maybe.
Dragons of flesh, weaving dragons of thread.
Viserys, now faded and hollowing, beckons his brother back to the Red Keep and to his side in the council, but Daemon is still harboring resentment and anger towards their complicated history. The king then leaves the party, tired, and he calls Alicent Emma, his old wife. It's this really sad and telling moment of this fading and hollowing king.
I'm going to bed, Emma.
Shall I see after Queen Alicent, Your Grace?
It's a testimony to the in-depth writing and this extensive character development and depth that's been put on display, that you can just place all these characters together in this wake sequence and just let them casually converse. And because of their relationships and where they all are on the dominance hierarchy and their extensive history together, it's just interesting. All you need to do is just place these characters together, and just them talking is interesting and fascinating, suspenseful because of what's happened and what's going to happen, and because of the high tension in their situations.
The gods can be cruel.
Seems they've been especially cruel to you.
Yes.
The Sea Snake and the Queen That Never Was have this deep conversation about the death of their daughter, and there's this really telling and revealing moment about the Sea Snake's motivations here. He states that history remembers names, not blood, and it's just really sad that he doesn't actually care about who is related to him and who is actually his blood or his family. He cares more about how he's remembered hundreds of years from now in the history books, rather than who is here now and who he's actually related to and the people he loves and the people that are surrounded by him. It was sad but eye-opening.
History does not remember blood. It remembers names.
After eyeing each other across the room during the entire wake sequence, Daemon and Rhaenyra finally converse, and Rhaenyra reveals that she did try to conceive children with Laenor, but it just didn't work out. They just couldn't. This makes me more sympathetic towards the situation. She didn't willingly just have children with breakbones and didn't care about the ramifications and just enter into this fucked up situation that would put her and her children into a violent situation. She tried to do what she was supposed to, but it just didn't work. So then she was forced to have children because, you know, if she doesn't make heirs, then it's not going to bode well for her either. She then reaches out for her uncle's love, and we get this extended and passionate sex sequence, which was sweet, but, you know, also incredibly fucked up because of the incestual implications. Aemond then suspensefully approaches this massive behemoth sleeping on the beach. This sequence was incredibly suspenseful, and when he approaches it and the dragon meets him with violence, it was incredibly tense. The child manages to talk this incredibly old monster down, and we see Vhagar's scale here. This dragon has just grown and grown as it's aged, and the physics and weight of it as it took off all seemed, you know, as real as a CGI dragon can seem. It may not have been as good as Schmorg, but it's a television show. There's 10 hours of it, and the amount of time and effort that this show puts into real locations and actual sets and costumes and CGI is amazing. We then get this CGI roller coaster ride of suspense as Vega tries to knock his rider off, this small child, but the child claims this massive behemoth as his mount, which is incredibly interesting. This dynamic of this 130-year-old massive dragon and this tiny, I don't know, 9-year-old child. Upon conquering Vega, Aemond is confronted by Rhaenyra's sons and Daemon's daughters, and they get into this massive scrap which just escalates and escalates. It crescendos in the point of Jace slashing out Aemond's eye with a knife. Little kids fighting to this degree of violence is interesting enough on its own, but when you start to think about who these kids are and the power that they may or may not inherit in the near future, it becomes even more interesting. And I have to say that the child actors here did an amazing job. Children are incredibly hard to control, and to have them to perform at this level and make the violence seem real and tangible and brutal, it was a very big feather in the cap of the director. And the actors. Good on these little kids. Look at them go. This is my favourite sequence in the entire show so far. To see Viserys so angry and so dominant in this moment, confronted with the disfigurement of his son. It was amazing. I love this guy, even though he's broken and he falls short and he's flawed and he's naive and he's dying and he's rotting away. To see him actually be the king here and take control of this moment with all his family, it was amazing. He obviously loves his daughter and his grandsons, but on the same hand, he loves his wife and his new children to her, and they're all just at each other, ripping at each other's throats for power. It's an incredibly hard situation to put the king in here. He doesn't want to pick a side. There are no sides for him. He loves both of these sides. Both of these sides are his direct family and lineage, and he just wants them to get along and be one house united, but it's not going to happen.
This interminable infighting must cease! All of you! We are family!
Suspense swells as Viserys presses Aegon about how and why he said these blasphemous comments about Rhaenyra's bastardry children, and he just says, everybody knows. Look at them. Look at the kids. They're obviously not fucking Laenor's kids. It was this incredibly tense and awkward and suspenseful sequence where a thing that is so impactful and means so much to the crown and to who's going to inherit power is obvious to everyone, and it's kind of out in the open, but the king is just in complete denial. And then when it's said out in front of everyone, it's just like, oh, holy shit. Holy shit.
We know, Father. Everyone knows. Just look at them.
Alicent is not content with de-escalating this situation and asks for an eye and asks Criston to go and remove Rhaenyra's son's eye as punishment for removing her son's eye. It then all explodes into violence, and Alicent's righteous veil is truly flung free as she cuts deep into the princess's arm. The sides have been drawn and blood has been spilled. All we need now is for old man Viserys to fall over in the shower and die, and this powder keg is going to erupt. Aemond, in the creepiest way possible, then interjects and says, it's okay, none of this conflict matters. I lost an eye, but that's alright because I gained a dragon, and that's fair payment. Fucking hell, that kid's a psycho. Otto then confides with his daughter and says, yeah, let's do it. I've seen the violence in you. I've seen the intensity. I am going to help you and we're going to put Aegon on the throne. So this whole thing, this dance is now about to commence. Well, as soon as, old man Viserys falls down some stairs.
I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon.
We get this nice little character moment between Rhaenyra and Laenor, and they talk about the fucked up situation they were both forced into and how they wish they could have done more to help each other out, and how they lament the fact that they're now dug deeper into this horrendous situation. They also talk about how they do have tangible respect and love for each other on some level, and it was just a little sweet character moment. There's no real bitterness harbored between these two individuals. They were both placed into this situation not non-willing, but they didn't want to enter into this marriage, and Laenor's gay. I mean, it's all fucked up and complex, but they don't hate each other. I mean, they probably do on some level, but it's more complex and deep than that. They also love and respect each other.
I hate the gods for making me as they did.
I do not.
Lamenting the loss of their partners, both by fire, Rhaenyra and Daemon finally discuss the fact that they both want each other, and if they binded their blood, it would consolidate their power and their way to consolidate the throne and put a more prestigious heir on the throne. The only problem is drunken Laenor, who's fucking laying around. We then get this incredibly shocking and confronting sequence where the Sea Snake and the Queen that Never Was pull what they think is their remaining son's burnt, cooked body out of the fire. At this moment, I was like, holy fucking shit, just to see the grief in their eyes and the shock and the intensity and the gore of this body pulled from the fire after they've just attended their daughter's funeral. It was intense. It's kind of undone a little bit later, but as it happened in that moment, I was like, holy fucking shit.
Let me whisper.
How did you let this happen? In my fucking home!
Rhaenyra and Daemon are then wed in this old school Valyrian wedding where they both symbolically and literally bind their bloods. It's a nice, serene and pretty moment. There's a lot of dark undertones to it here, considering who they are and what's going to happen and the implications of their binding. These two are kind of our main characters, and it's interesting that I can both be sympathetic towards their love for each other and off-put by it at the same time. To make these two wed each other here and know how weird and odd it is for our customs and how disgusting and off-putting it is for modern day people, but then for it to kind of still be interesting and sympathetic and you understand and have sympathy for their love, it's interesting. These are our main characters and they're in this fucked up weird situation that you can also feel for and kind of feel sympathy for. It's complex, right? Laenor is then revealed to be alive, and this was kind of disappointing to me. I kind of wanted Rhaenyra and Daemon to have gone over the edge and murdered him. That would have been so brutal and hectic if Rhaenyra was just like, fuck my husband, I'm gonna murder him just so I can marry my uncle. That would have been a brilliant like Tony Soprano, Walter White moment where our main character is so fucked up and so dark and it just shocks us how far they're willing to go. So it's kind of taking away a bit of the brutal, confronting nature of the previous two sequences. But I mean, it's fine, I guess. Laenor's just like, fuck my parents, I don't care about them, I'm gonna go and fight in a war and I want to be free of all the political scheming and everything I was forced into and didn't want to do, and I don't really care about my parents or what they think. Fuck them. In conclusion, this may have been the best episode of the show so far. It's only good because of what the other episodes have put the time and effort to slowly set up. So all credit to all the in-depth character arcs and the backstories and the histories and the setting up of these dark, complex characters, but it's all coming to a head now. And to see all these characters together in the same room, mixing, and their complex socio-political and inter-character drama is just interesting and fascinating from a writing perspective and from a drama perspective. This show continues to be an A+ drama. Thank you all for watching, and I can't wait for the next episode. I'll see you all next week. Thank you and good night.